You're tuned into the Writing Community Chat Show, the live streaming YouTube podcast that brings you the stories of authors, screenwriters, and more. Indie or established, this show's for the community, and we invite you to be a part of it. Head to the writingcommunitychatshow.com for more info. The WCCS. Together as one, we get it done.
My name's Chris, and you are watching the Writing Community Chat Show. Yes, I did forget to push that button. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Writing Community Chat Show. My name's Chris, and welcome, and I hope you're having a great day. The weather's certainly taken a turn for the better in the UK, so we're enjoying that this afternoon, and I'm sure a lot of you are as well. Let me know how you're getting on in the chat and how your day's been and all those good things. It's great to see you there in chatting already. There's been some good things going on lately for the WCCS, and it's all kind of exciting, and there's a lot of things happening behind the scenes. And you know, you've probably, if you know, on social media, you've probably followed me and seen all of that secrecy, but believe me, it is coming out very, very soon. So this week, I'm here. Sorry I'm late, Brandon. Come on. 30 seconds late is not acceptable. Of course it is. Hello, everybody. So there's been a big effort on my part to update the WCCS website, the writingcommunitychatshow.com website at the moment. I've finally updated the guest list for season 8 and now in season 9, of course. That is all done. And there's a couple of new pages that are worth checking out. Of course, there is a new one called Services that I, again, tweeted these out. Services is an opportunity for anyone that's a creator, for book covers, for publishing, for editing, any of those kind of services to advertise on the site and support this show through things like Patreon, but also for people who are writing, and a lot of self-published authors that kind of watch this show and listen to it can go on there and get the services they need to kind of fine-tune their work and develop their career in that sense. So please go and check that out if that interests you. There's no one on there yet, but it's just brand new, so people can populate that very soon. And there's another page called Apply, and you can, for the first time now, apply directly to the show for any of the 3 shows the WCCS has. So we have a standard staple interview show, which this is tonight. We've got the discussion panel, so you, individual, can put yourself in to talk about something, or you can put a team together to talk about pretty much anything you want on the show within reason, and I will support that and give you the platform to do so. And we've got the fun panel show, which tests your wits, your impressions, and of course your writing skills as well, which is all about personality and just a lot of fun, which is what we should have in this life, of course. So there you go. You can now apply directly on there. And of course, you can still send an email if you want to do it that way. That is absolutely fine. What else is there? Yes, there's a brand new page, a brand new page going to appear next week. And it's a secret mission. I am teaming up with somebody from the writing community that none of you know about yet. And I'm going to try not to spoil it right now. I'm very excited about it because it adds a new dynamic to this show that's been going for a couple of years. And it's something I'm very passionate about as well. And it's going to start very soon, and you're going to have an announcement, and it's going to be emailed out first. So if you're not part of the writingcommunitychatshow.com website emailing list, go there and sign up. It's very quick to do so. I won't spam you with a load of rubbish from the emails. It's very rare I tweet out from that, actually, or email out from that. So go and do that, and you will be the first to know about the thing. The discussion group about the best way to shear a sheep. No, not at all. That video is still there in the Patreon. I will put that out soon because not many people are watching it on there, so I may as well put it on YouTube. The shearing a sheep thing happened, and we're not having a discussion group about that because it was insanely hard, and my advice would be useless about that, okay? Yeah, interesting time that was. Very fun. But yeah, so this exciting new thing is coming, and I'm going to put that out there next week, so I'm really looking forward to that. And the duo thing is going to be good with somebody that you're well aware of in the community. So interesting to see how the reaction to that is. What else? Yesterday, we identified our second indie author of the month, which is now August. That person was JC Gemon, who I referred to as a girl throughout the entire thing. Found out it was a boy. Apologies. So we had a marbles race, and that person, JC, crushed the competition over 10 races, came out on top, and now is our Indie Author of the Month. I will offer that person the interview. As always, I will buy and review their book. And what I hope to do is give them a big push analytically. And we had some actual evidence back from our last month Indie Author that it does work. And as this is early stages, that's really good feedback to hear. So as this grows and the support grows for this, then every author that gets selected each month will have a real boost of their kind of self-publishing career. So if you guys can also buy into buying their books and reviewing it, it's a big ask, I know, but even following them socially or giving them a subscription somewhere, that really gives them a lift. And that's what this is all about. The writing community supporting one of their own. So that's really exciting that that's getting into its second episode. And, you know, that's kind of it really at the moment. I say that's it. That's still a lot of information. But what I want to do is give you guys some homework for this show as well. Linda, I'm really disappointed. Sorry, we can do a sheep discussion panel if you want, but I'm not entirely sure it's going to go down too well. But also, I don't mind. So if you want to, we can do it. Yeah, a bit of homework for you in the chat. What I want to know is if you could choose a movie title for your life, what would it be called? Have a think about that in the chat. A guest can think about that as well if they want to answer that at some point. But you in the chat, let me know what you think your life movie would be called. And we'll get tonight's guest on when you have a think about that. So tonight, ladies and gentlemen, our guest has had a very interesting career path, which I look to delve into. And we can ask questions, of course, along the show and towards the end. She went from Scottish Highlands to Oxford University, worked as a banker or in banking in London, apologies, before swimming the English Channel solo, which is incredible, and has run marathons and ultra marathons. Again, absolutely insane, incredible. By the way, in the chat again, let me know if you don't know how many miles roughly it is to swim across the English Channel, and how long do you think it would take? She, after the ultra marathons, then released her debut book in 2018, which was called The French Girl, and was called a dark, fresh, and exhilarating debut novel of psychological suspense, which sounds incredible. She is now promoting her third novel, so that's gone really well. How to Kill Your Best Friend, which you can see by there, which was a Richard and Judy book club pick. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Lexie Elliot. Hello, Lexie.
Hello, it's so nice to be here with you.
Thank you so much for joining me. Honestly, I hope you're well. And how's your day been?
How's my day been? It's been a little busy. I was up at 7 o'clock having my hair done because there was no other time to do it in the entire day. So I've been running around. I've had 2 radio interviews today. I had a child to get a booster jab sorted with. Yeah, just lots going on.
Wow, that's great stuff. Very busy indeed, and I'm sure it's all for good reason. 2 interviews as well before this one. That's a busy schedule. Yeah.
But obviously, this is the one that I've been waiting for.
Oh, of course. I mean, you know, everyone is. No, not at all. Yeah, where are you coming from? I believe it was London.
Yeah, I'm in Southwest London.
Southwest London, brilliant. And how are things around London these days? Is it kind of the pandemic kind of eased off completely now? Are things back to normal?
It feels pretty normal. I mean, anecdotally, people are telling me that there's a lot of people around who've got COVID, but I guess with it being summer and people are going away, I haven't noticed anything, and people are behaving pretty normally. There's not a lot of masks on tubes or anything.
Yeah, I don't think people want to spoil the holidays these days. So there's a lot of people who feel okay with COVID. They're just thinking, yeah, I'm going to leave this quietly.
Yeah, I wonder if that's happening too. But yeah,
I'm sure it will be.
We feel like maybe this is the new normal. Let's see.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so what we're going to do is jump into tonight's show and part 1 of the show, which is the road to writing. So I'm going to play a little video. And we're going to look at that journey that I mentioned through all the craziness of Oxford University and banking and ultra marathons and swimming the Channel is just mind blowing to me. So we're going to get into that very soon. And hopefully we can get some good questions in there as well.
Okay, great.
So Lexie, let's rewind the tape then. Where did things all begin for you? I mean, leading up to writing, and of course, your book releases weren't kind of until 2018. So there was a big career before there. But I do know that you kind of dabbled with writing in school as well. Is that right?
Yeah, I always wanted to write. I mean, right from as soon as I understood that books were actually written by somebody and they didn't just appear in libraries magically, which I guess I must have thought at some stage, and somebody had to explain, no, there is an author.
Yeah. Nice
Yeah, I
thought.
wanted to be one. And I remember writing little stories and taking them into my primary school teacher right when I was kind of 5, 6, 7, just as soon as I suppose as I could string sentences together. So it was something I always wanted to do. And then when it came to choosing a degree for university, I think my thought process was that I could follow an interest in English and literature in my own time, but it was going to be kind of difficult to do that with physics, and that the physics might be a better path to getting a job with some kind of remuneration. So I think I had an eye on being financially independent, and it certainly, I didn't grow up in the kind of environment where you were going to have a trust fund that was going to float you and you could go and starve in an attic if you wanted to. You know, I was going to have to find my way through the world.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. Do you remember kind of what books you were reading back when the mystical books back in the day? Do you remember what was kind of getting your interest at that stage?
When I was very young, I started with all the things that everybody does, I guess, all those kind of Enid Blyton's Famous Fives, all those kind of books, and went straight through all of those. I read Agatha Christie's. My dad was into Dick Francis, so I read just about everything Dick Francis has ever written. I got into things like Anne McCaffrey and Robin McKillip. I'm going to pronounce that wrong. Robin McKillip, I think it is, who wrote Beauty, and Anne McCaffrey did the Dragon Riders of Pern series. So I had a real education in kind of, I suppose, mystery thrillers, and then on the other hand, the sort of sci-fi fantasy world as well. Like it might sound like an odd juxtaposition, but actually, I'm very into both of those.
Yeah, it's a good mix, I think. It's a good elements in both sides. Do you think that's kind of what has led you on to writing psychological thrillers and things like that as well?
Well, I write psychological thrillers that often have a little touch of something unusual to them, just maybe a slight sideways glance at what else there might be in the world that we're not completely aware of. And I wonder if that's coming in from the more the sci-fi fantasy side of things, that I'd like to imagine that there's more than we can comprehend immediately.
Yeah. So once you were in university at that stage then, and did you kind of feel like the writing life that you had visualized at that point was kind of slipping away at all? Or?
I suppose at that point, I was writing on the side, and mainly short stories. When I was a teenager, I read Margaret Atwood's Wilderness Tips, and that really opened my eyes to what you can do with the short story genre. So I was writing a ton of short stories and terrible poetry. I'm fairly certain I haven't quite lost, but I need to make sure I entirely lose, because I don't want anyone to find it. Yeah, and I think, yes, I probably felt like, oh God, when in my life is going to be the time that I actually, pick up this gauntlet and run with it. But there are, other things going on. I was doing my degree, then I was doing my PhD, and then I was actually getting a job and paying the bills and so forth. So it felt like someday, but not quite yet, maybe.
Yeah. I mean, writing short stories is really interesting, and it's something I write definitely is more novellas than novels, because I just don't seem to have the word count when it comes to that. And short stories, there's been a lot of success from, but I have no idea these days if people write short stories with the idea of getting them published, because it seems quite a challenge to do that. Do you think that or not?
Yeah, I suppose I was writing short stories and often sending them into competitions and things. I probably have the same viewpoint as you, that you tend to be able to produce a book of short stories at the point at which you're an established author in the long form.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, so after university, you had your degree. What was the plan? Was there a definite plan for you there, or was this something you were kind of just going to go in and discover after that?
Well, I guess at that point, so yeah, I was working. I got a job at after my PhD. I got a job with Goldman Sachs in the city, and that was just all encompassing in terms of time. Except somehow I managed to meet my husband, and and then I had two children, and I was still working in the investment bank. But what happened was I got credit crunched, as a number of people did in 2008/2009 when there was the global financial crisis. And then I was at home with a very young baby. My youngest was 4 weeks when I got credit crunch, and then a toddler, and that was the point at which I thought, I need to focus on something, because suddenly, my career has stopped, and I thought I will probably get another job, but yeah, I need to focus on something in this interim period, and that was the point at which I started writing The French Girl.
Yeah, I often think that sometimes people are put on a path and they think this doesn't feel right at the time, but that path sometimes leads into a better path, and that kind of feels like that to me, that you at the time you're probably thinking that this is not a good situation to be in, but what resulted of that is obviously so far a successful author career. Do you see it that way?
I think, yeah, I do have a certain belief that what's meant to be will be, and also I look at The French Girl, and I had the idea for that when I was doing my PhD, actually, but the book I wrote was so much better than it would have been had I not had those years of experience in between, and I do think there's something to that, to being a little bit older, maybe a little bit better or better equipped to be able to deal with what essentially is walking into a brand new career, not knowing anything about the publishing industry, not knowing anything about how that works, and having a certain amount of confidence to say, no, I want this or I want that. And that would have been, I think, quite hard in, say, my early 20s. It was a lot easier for me to do that in my 30s.
Yeah. I mean, once you had written or were writing The French Girl, did you have a plan on how to attack that in terms of publishing and finding an agent and all those things? Was there something in place already, or did you just kind of think, right, I'll get the book done and then take it from there?
So I got my agent on the back of a book I'd written previously that never saw the light of day. But I met her at a writers' festival, and she's American. She lives in the States and works out of New York, and she had read that book and kind of took me on the basis of it. But I was just starting to write The French Girl, and she read the first few chapters of that and said, this is better, finish this. And really, I just always had faith in Marcy. She's a fantastic agent, and she's been around the block a lot. She's worked as an editor as well as an agent. So actually, she's very hands-on for helping you to improve your work. And I guess I needed that to begin with. And she also gives me a certain amount of confidence when I get neurotic. I'm terrible around the 20,000 word mark. I just completely lose my confidence in whatever I'm writing. And at that point, Marcy's just sort of slowly talks me down and gets me back on track.
That's really interesting. I mean, I've only been to the one writing festival at the moment, but I can see how people can network at those events, and that sounds like a great relationship as a result of that. I mean, when you get to those panicky moments as an author, initially, did you feel like you could go to your agent at that point and think, I need help here, or was it always like a welcoming kind of back and forth relationship?
It always was a welcoming back and forth relationship. And actually, at the point that, I signed with her, I did have the choice of some other people. And the draw with Marcy was partly the fact that, she's based in the States, it's a much bigger market, and, commercially that made sense. But there was also the fact that I really felt that she had the skill set and the interest and the time to put into helping me improve. And so it's always been a really good back and forth. I mean, she's very blunt at times. I've learned how to take that.
That can be a good thing sometimes, right? It seems like quite possibly that having the right agent in that sort of relationship can be almost like a growth partner for you as an author. It's almost a partnership in producing you as an author and showcasing you as well. You know, have you contributed a lot of your sort of improvements to that relationship, do you think?
Yes, I think certainly very much in terms of getting something that is absolutely professionally produced.
Mhm.
You know, totally credit her with, you know, helping me to get up the curve on that. And then the other thing that she's really great at is just helping me to navigate, okay, I have 1,000 ideas. I'm never short of ideas, but which is the one that's got
Yeah.
enough legs and is big enough to really hold the whole novel, and in fact is commercial, right? At the end of the day, you know, people are actually trying to sell
Mm.
my books. So there is sometimes I have an idea on something and the answer is, you know, you can't sell it at the moment. That market, the bottom has just dropped out of it. So, you know, put it in a drawer, put it in a file on your computer and maybe come back to it later, but you need to write something different right now.
It's really interesting when you think of it in that sense. I don't know. There's a question I was about to ask you. It's just gone up my head. Oh, what was that? That was
It'll come back.
It needs to, because it was a good one. Oh, I'll have to move on from that one.
Shall I tell you exactly how I met Marcy while you think about that?
Yeah, go on.
So I was on the train going up to this festival in New York, and she was on the train too, and she got up to get off, and I could see she had a sheet of papers that said, you know, so I was like, oh, you're going to the same place. And then she was struggling a bit with her bags, so I carried her bags for her, and then we ended up sharing a taxi, and then I found out that she was an agent.
Wow.
So what I would say from this is be nice to everyone. You never
Well, that's
know
what I
when it
was
will
saying
help.
about like kind of fate being and your path being made for you, because that on that day, had you not felt very welcoming and open to people, you might not have done that, and you may never got that contract.
Absolutely. Yeah, I took to the end of the taxi ride for me to say, would you mind reading my stuff? But she was like, absolutely, that's no problem.
Did you actually expect that person to then take your book and actually read it? Or did you think, oh, they're not going to read that?
I just thought, I'm in this position, I just need to
Take
give it
advantage.
a shot, right?
Yeah. So my question was, and thank you for that, because that's come back. If you can give a tip to someone, someone's watching this or listening back and they're getting into writing, when you talk about having lots of ideas, how do you form those? Or is it kind of a natural thing for you? What tips could you give them to getting ideas in the bank?
So I suppose there are times where I'm more open to ideas, maybe where I'm finishing off a book and I'm beginning to think about what I might write next. And I think that aspect of my brain is like a muscle, that if you're trying to use it and you're using it more, then more and more and more ideas come. So once I start that process of really opening up to what I could do, then loads come, and I just file everyone. You know, I have got a file on my computer with all of these things listed, and it starts for me like sometimes it's just a title and a few sentences, and often it's more like the sort of blurb that you would read on the back of a book, and I don't really know the story, but I kind of know the atmosphere and I kind of know where it's going, and I will shove it down on a piece of paper or on a file and just make sure I've kept it. There occasionally, you know, there'll be other times, but often I think if I'm in the middle of writing on something else, then my brain is very much on that, and the ideas and the creativity that I'm having is focused around that project, and don't really maybe get some external ideas.
Yeah, I like that idea. But do you feel like, say, for example, they say, oh, this is not kind of the right story at the moment, go back into your vault of ideas. Do you ever think you can have they ever crossed over with another story, two of them?
What, you know, I have a couple of ideas and think, oh, I can mix them. Let's see. Yeah, not so much. But that go back and find another one, that happens.
Yeah, I bet.
Not with How to Kill Your Best Friend, but with Bright and Deadly Things, the one that is coming out next year. Yeah, we went back and forth quite a bit, and there was something I did want to write, and I was maybe 2 or 3 chapters in, and then there was we'd rather you find something different. Like, that's a shame.
Yeah, it must be frustrating.
I got invested in this one.
I really want to. talk about a few things before we jump into part 2 and talk about your how to kill your best friend's friend. You're swimming across the channel. How did that come around? And the preparation must have been insane, and doing it must have been even crazier. What happened with that?
Yeah, so I suppose a little bit of background. I was a competitive swimmer all my teenage years. Through university, I swam for Oxford and I played Waterpolo for Oxford. And, you know, bear in mind, I did an undergrad degree, then a PhD. So I was at Oxford for 7 years. So I had a lot of years to swim there. And actually, Oxford and Cambridge race each other across the English Channel every 2 years. And that started, it's somewhat recent. It started in 1998, but it started whilst I was there, and I was in the 2000 team. And that team is 3 men and 3 women, and you rotate and you keep going till you hit France. And I remember at the time thinking, God, that's just too cold and too long to ever do solo. But then I suppose shortly after we got married, I did meet someone who, you know, without wishing to be rude, wasn't as fast a swimmer as me by any manner of means in a pool, certainly, who had swam across the English Channel. And that made me think, actually, you know, maybe it's more about maybe I can do it, you know. And then when I had Cameron, I think I was just really looking for something that would make me feel a bit more like the person I had been, because I think, was it Nigella Lawson said that once you have a child, you stop being the picture and you become the frame. And that's entirely right. You know, that's how it should be. But I think I felt like I needed to do something that made me feel I could still be interesting, you know.
Yeah, definitely.
So it was a bit of a huge challenge. And in terms of, you know, you said the preparation must have been insane. It was insane, because when it got to around about Easter time and I was training down in Dover at the weekends, and so my husband's sports mad. So we had this routine where he would get up at 4 a.m. He would cycle to Dover Harbour. I would get up, you know, take the baby, drive down to Dover Harbour, pass him the baby, get in the water, swim for 5-6 hours, come out. We'd go and stay in this, like, I think it was Premier Inn or a Travelodge, and Cameron wouldn't stay in his cot, so you'd have 3 of us in a queen bed getting no sleep. And then the next day I would swim for 5-6 hours, climb out, be handed baby. He would get on bike, cycle home. I would then drive home with baby, and then we'd get Cameron down to bed in his own bed and kind of sit down on the sofa like 8 o'clock and think, oh my God, I've got a whole week of work ahead of me.
Wow.
And I'm knackered.
You must have been exhausted. That is incredible.
I mean, not.
We haven't even got to the thought of, I've been reading Ross Edgley's book, because he swam around the UK.
Right, yes.
Yeah, and he's talking about jellyfish getting stuck to his face and vomiting in the ocean, and the current dragging that along with him, and those sorts of things that you don't even think about. I mean, did you have any encounters with sort of any unexpected
jellyfish?
Yeah.
I mean, jellyfish, I got stung actually on the channel crossing a couple of times, but the ones in the channel aren't too dreadful. I mean, there are ones elsewhere which are awful, but yeah, they're like a bit of an electric shock, and it's fine. I threw up before I started the swim, because it was 2 a.m, it was dark. Yeah, we had got on the boat. It was really, really choppy, and we had to go out and round to the beach where I was starting from. And I think I was just really nervous. Plus, I'd been like putting on sun cream at midnight and eating porridge, and then I got on the boat, and I basically just chucked it all up. But once I was in the water, I was fine. But the oddest thing I did see in the water was like a half-open suitcase, kind of sort of semi-floating about 1.5 meters below the surface. And I was thinking, was that like, you know, a boat with drugs, and they just threw it overboard in case someone was coming I don't know. I mean, what's the story behind a suitcase being lobbed in the middle of the ocean? I don't get it. It's
a great start of a book, though, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Wow, that's a great idea. So what was the plan once you swam? Was it a one-way trip?
Well, you haven't kind of technically gone through any of the normal border crossing process. So as you have a certain amount of time, it's like under 10 minutes to be on French soil, and then you have to get back. So you have to get onto the support boat and back to the UK. which is slightly demoralizing because you're
Mm.
like, okay, it took me. Am I allowed to say how long it took, or are you having?
Yeah, no, go for it. Yeah.
Okay, it took 12 and a half hours to get there swimming, and we chugged back in under 4. You're like,
Wow.
okay.
Wow. 12 and a half hours of. Was there times you actually could get out and rest, or was this a constant?
Oh no, you're not allowed to touch the boat. No. So even when they're feeding you, and you might have like carbohydrate powder in a bottle or something, the bottle is coming out to you essentially on the end of a fishing line. You're not allowed to touch the boat at all.
That is incredible. I mean, I've been swimming recently, started swimming, and I've been getting like little rashes in places that I didn't know would happen. Was there anything like that with you, with your wetsuit or anything, or was it kind of just?
Oh no, you don't wear a wetsuit. It doesn't count if you wear a wetsuit. So you're just in a swimsuit.
Oh my god!
So it's very cold. That is one of the things. It's very cold. But yeah, you do need to kind of put a fair amount of Vaseline in the places where straps might chafe and things like that.
Incredible. Kudos to you. That is incredible. But then obviously you went from that thinking, I haven't had enough pain, I'm going to do marathons, which
were easier. I mean, if you look on an ultra marathon, if you're really in trouble, then you're going to walk, but you kind of don't have a fallback option on swimming. You've just got to keep swimming.
Yeah. But yeah, nonetheless, you still ran marathons and ultra marathons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that was, so my mom got diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and I wanted to do something, to raise money. Yeah. And, with any of these things, you put yourself down for something that you've probably always had a secret yen to do anyway. And yeah, I thought, maybe 100K, there's a 100K race along the Thames Path. So I put myself down for that. Did a few 50Ks along the way and a few other marathons along the way as part of the training. And that was an interesting experience, a really interesting experience about, how you can go through a real low and get a second wind. And by the very end, I was actually cracking out a decent pace again, having been at one point where I thought, God, every step is just aching so much. I felt like somebody had removed all the cushioning through all my joints, and every step was just juddering through me.
Sounds horrific. Well, weirdly, I'm walking 100K in October over 3 days. And I'm kind of not panicking about it, but I'm training for that for over 3 days. But you ran that in one go.
I did, yeah.
Yeah. How long did that take you?
I'm trying to remember. It was around 10 hours.
Wow, that's incredible. Really is.
And the marathon, I remember going through the marathon at a really decent pace and thinking, I feel great. But you've got quite a lot to go.
Oh, it does.
You've done 42K or something, and you've got quite a bit to go.
You're like, I've swum the channel. This is nothing. Brilliant. Oh, incredible. Is there anything else in the pipeline at the moment?
So I'm a bit doing shorter stuff at the moment. So I am doing what are called aquathlons. So it's like a triathlon, but you cut out the bike, because I used to think that I didn't have enough time to bike. And then when I had a bit more time, it turns out I still don't bike. So I probably just don't much like biking. So yeah, an aquathlon is usually the ones I do are about a K of swimming and then 5K run. And I'm going to the European Championships to represent GB in my age group. So I'm doing that in September. Wow,
fantastic. That is absolutely incredible. Well done. And good luck, I guess.
Thank you.
Yeah. Part 2 of the show, guys. We've got to get onto this because we're going to run out of time. We're going to talk all about your book once we play this video and come back.
Thank you.
Just kept saying, incredible. Incredible. Okay, part 2 of the show. What's the story? Please, can you let everybody know what How to Kill Your Best Friends is all about, please?
So How to Kill Your Best Friend is a psychological thriller, and it's set on a remote island in Southeast Asia where a group of friends all congregate to commemorate one of their number who has drowned swimming off the coast of this island. And we see the story through the eyes of Georgie and Bronwyn, who both have different reasons for questioning how, a star swimmer could have drowned, because swimming is very much the glue of this group of friends. They all met swimming together on their college swim team. And as the weather turns ominous and it traps them on the island, and funny things start to happen, they begin to wonder whether maybe Lys's death was just the beginning.
Ooh, it's exciting. Straight away, I had this question preloaded here. The idea of the character being a professional swimmer, college days you mentioned as well. How much of your life is influenced your writing, and how much have you actually put in there? Is this kind of relating to your character at all?
Yeah, I think, look, every writer can't help but lean on their experience. There aren't specific incidents or anything that have turned up, but certainly, there's quite a few scenes where they are swimming or talking about swimming, and I've done the research. I can assure you, I've done the research. My whole life has been doing the research on those particular sections. And also, I think the other thing that I really can get to grips with very easily is the way in which people with a shared passion, and particularly something that takes up so much time, and maybe social hours and so on, it really bonds them together, but perhaps in a way that's at times a little false. I mean, you would assume that somebody who put so much time and effort into the same thing that you do might think the same way as you do, and that's not necessarily the case. So you can have misconceptions about those people that you're spending a great deal of time with.
Yeah, that's what I was going to mention off the back of that, these group of friends who lived and breathed together, suddenly there's an intruder in there, but they're not sure who that is. That really ups the ante in that scenario. How did you feel like your writing has progressed from, say, The French Girl to your writing now? Because this obviously won the best, the Rich and Judy book club pick, whatever it's called. So do you feel like that's a consequence of your writing evolving, or is this just one of those stories you feel like just had what it takes to get to that point?
I do think that I probably write a little better in first drafts and so on, just because I've learned along the way, and I know, A, I know what's expected, and B, I'm more aware of my own tics and what to go and look for and what I need to pick out. But I think I would have gotten there in later drafts anyway. So yeah. I'm not sure that it's necessarily about the writing. I think that sometimes you write something where the plot just captures a mood or a zeitgeist, and that is the hook that maybe catapults you a little higher into the public profile, and it's not necessarily that your writing has really stepped up a notch.
Yeah, cool. So your writing process, you mentioned it there. When your ideas are there, you kind of throw them down as little blurbs. What is your writing process like? Is it plotting along the way, deeply plotting, or is it very much pantsed?
Not pantsed, because, well, I suppose The French Girl probably was, but then I wasn't writing with a contract. But thereafter, I've had a publishing house who demands to see an outline, so you kind of have to deliver an outline. So yeah, okay. I mean, nobody's going to hold a gun to your head and make sure that you actually write that, and stories do move off in their own way. But yeah, I have an outline that's usually 5 or 6 pages long, and usually I would say the beginning and the end very much cleave to that, and somewhere in the middle might wander, and there might be a shift in emphasis or tone, but broadly speaking, what we've agreed I'll deliver will more or less be delivered.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I mean, what's your sort of writing process like in terms of length? Does it take you long to kind of get your first draft in, and then from that point, is it a long process to publication?
Yeah, I mean, the bulk of my writing time is on that first draft. The second draft usually is, if the publishing house has big ideas about shifting a tone or an emphasis, then that's what happens in the second draft. And then third draft is just picking up any little things, really. and then after that you're copy, edit, and proof, and done. It is a long time from initial idea to being on the shelf, and I'm sure other authors have said that to you. And it's largely driven by not just my writing time, which isn't super swift, but I guess for me, from kind of first idea to having, been through enough drafts that it's something that could actually go out and be on the shelf is probably 8 months. But then there's time before that when you're going back and forth and agreeing, on that concept and what it is you're going to do. And there's time after that for the copy edit, for the proof. And then there's a 6 month, roughly speaking, period where they want to do the marketing. So they'll have an advanced reading copy at that point, and they'll be sending that out. So, here we are in August, and we're about done on Bright and Deadly Things that comes out in February of next year in the US. So that's 6 months or so of marketing time.
I was going to ask what's coming next, but you just answered that question for me. What I want to ask you about your cover that's on your website, because it's different to the one that's behind me and on the screen now. And it's this one that's popped up in the top corner. Is kind of a orangey blue, colorful kind of cover, which I kind of really like. Do you know why it's different, and which one do you prefer?
Okay, so there are 3 different covers now. Okay. So that one is the US cover.
Right.
There is a UK cover for a hardback, and then Richard and Judy had input into what the cover should be for the paperback.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Is
so
that because it was the club pick?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
And at that point, there are various things that they do get a little bit of influence on. The cover is one of them, and the Richard and Judy copy that's branded Richard and Judy ends up with a little bit of there's a 2 or 3 page thing that I've written about the novel that's in there and won't be in any other versions.
Wow. So can you elaborate on what that means to an author then, being a Richard and Judy club pick?
It's been amazing for me. I've done more radio since that was announced than I've done in the entirety of my career up till now. Yeah. I've done pieces for national papers. I've done pieces for all sorts of online and print copy things, and it suddenly when somebody who's marketing for me and publicizing for me is asking questions, that suddenly there's a yes answer. Yes, we'd like to have her. Yes, we'd like this, and people really responding well to that. So it's been completely amazing, I have to say.
Yeah, that sounds fantastic. So out of the covers, which was your favorite? Did you answer that one?
I didn't.
No.
Possibly the one that you're not showing. Sorry about that.
I haven't seen that one.
Do I have it behind me? No, I don't. I tell you what, if you play a video at any other point, I'll nip off and grab it. See if I get back I'm gonna
have a quick look on the internet and see if I can find it. Is it got lipstick on the front? No.
No, it's got a real sandy beach, if you like, and looking down on it.
Oh yes, I've got that. Right. Okay, I can share this on screen now. 1 second.
So you have technological skills.
The joy of tech. So there you go. That's the one.
That's the one. There you go.
Yep.
I think that's actually my favorite.
I do like that a lot more.
Yeah, that's the UK hardback.
And especially as you as a swimmer who you can relate to that very well, and it speaks about the story instantly. Which the other ones kind of do, but I get that instantly in comparison to that one, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I thought it was very clever. I mean, maybe the coloring on the I'm pointing at a screen that everybody's watching. The coloring on the Richard and Judy copy is quite arresting. So I think that is good too.
And what about, say, the French girl, the missing ears behind you, and your best friend? Out of the 3 covers of those, have you got a particular one that's your favorite?
I really do like. Let me see if I can reach a copy of it. I really do like the French girl. I think it's really atmospheric. And actually, if you know the story where, you know, it's a group of friends who were at a farmhouse in France where 10 years after that trip, the body of a girl who went missing is found in a well. And that happens in the first 2 pages. So that is not a spoiler. But I think that really sort of sums up the atmosphere of these kind of post-university group of friends going out, having a really hedonistic time for a week. And, you know, then this dreadful thing happens. And 10 years later, they're trying to work out what they remember, what could really have happened, and so on and so forth.
I can't remember last week. I can't go back 10 years.
No, exactly.
Oh, brilliant. Okay, what we'll do very shortly is we'll go into the last part of the show for you guys. If you got questions, start loading those up in the chat for us. Did you have an answer to the question I asked earlier? Is what would a movie about your life be named?
Oh, did you ask me that?
Not you directly, but to the crowd. To the crowd. Look at all these crowded people around here. To the audience earlier, I asked that, and I wondered if you had an answer. That's all.
I do have an answer. Breathing water.
Okay. Who would cast you? Any ideas?
Oh,
no. No. Passing on that one.
No. I think that's going too deep into the psyche. That question.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so we'll go into part 3 of the show, guys. Get your questions in. We've got some fantastic things to ask questions about, from the swimming to the writing and to all the amazing things we've talked about so far. And I'll play part 3 and we'll get some Writing Community Chat Show questions in there as well. Part 3 coming up. So, Lexie, part 3 of the show, community questions. I've got a few questions. Whilst the audience are thinking of theirs, I'll ask some of ours. So, if you could take the ending of anything in the world of fiction, whether it's TV, film, or literature, and change that ending, what are you going to change and why?
I'm glad you gave me a heads up on this one, because this is pretty tough, right?
Don't tell them that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm joking.
I'm like pulling the curtain back and revealing what really happened. Yeah, I thought about this, and in the end, and I know it sounds kind of so obvious, but Game of Thrones, because I honestly just thought Sansa Stark was kick-ass, and she absolutely should have been ruling the roost at the end. And the whole, you know, the last series should have been about 4 episodes longer, and I can't compare it to what the ending in the books will be, because none of us have got to read it yet. So but yes, I mean, Sansa Stark absolutely should have been queen of all and everything. It
has come up before for valid reason, and of course a new spin-off is on its way.
Yes, I did see that. Yes.
Are you looking forward to that, or are you kind of
in that one?
I believe so.
Yes, and there's a prequel to Lord of the Rings, I think, it's coming
on.
So there's a few good things that'll be interesting. Yeah.
In fact,
I'm much more interested in the book being released of Game of Thrones than I am of any television thing. I sort of fell off the telly bit and came back in the last couple of series.
I mean, for telly fans, tomorrow, in fact, The Sandman comes out on Netflix, which I'm very excited about. It's going to be fantastic. Neil Gaiman's The Sandman. Okay. Yeah. If you could take any character from fiction and hang out with that character for the day, or you can put them into one of your books, what character from fiction would you be taking?
So if I was going to hang out with somebody for a day, I honestly just think Katniss Everdeen would be brilliant. I'd really enjoy spending time with her. And I think what I really loved about that character was that she was so... she was just very true to herself and uncompromising and unwilling to be anything else, to play the political game, just very straightforward. And I like that. In terms of taking a fictional character and putting them into my novels, see, I really struggle with that, because my characters kind of live and breathe in my head, and other people's characters are theirs. And so I think my solution to that is I would maybe take some characters from one of my books and pick them up and put them in a different book. So I wondered about maybe taking the French detective who's in the French girl and putting him into How to Kill Your Best Friend, and then how would that have changed the story? That would be quite an interesting question for me.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, going back to TV and film and talking about that a little bit, I think things are definitely going in the direction of TV at the moment, or series. I mean, if any of your books were optioned for and picked up, would you think you would, if you had a preference, want a film out of your stories, or would you want a series?
So the French girl was being worked up for a series, and then actually by the team who did The Night Manager, but it became a casualty of COVID essentially. And as a lot of things did, projects were either too difficult to get off the ground, or then they suffered afterwards when people had just overbought and weren't that interested in any more content. The Missing Years, again, is being worked up for a series. I mean, I'm now at the point where I just don't hold my breath on this stuff. If somebody wants to pay me for the option and then maybe pay me to extend it again, I will bank the check. I'm just not going to sit here and expect it to happen. I think that my books are my books. They sit on the shelf, and what somebody else chooses to do with them it has no bearing on the book that I wrote. And I suppose I kind of love a red carpet, so maybe a film.
Of course, lovely free night, I think would be good. What I think people need to realize as well, that if they have never thought about that and they get an option, request, that does not mean that your book is going to be turned into anything until literally filming probably starts, and even then there's the chance it might not happen, and it could take years. So as exciting for authors as it may be, you've just got to take that realistic step back and just kind of brace yourself and take your time, I think.
It really doesn't mean anything. And God, if you've seen the news today, they spent 90 million making Batgirl, and they're just going to can it. So
no way.
Even if filming starts, it's not going to necessarily mean anything.
But how can they do that? I mean,
I know.
They've released bad films anyway. You may as well go for it.
There's a rumor that it's not because it's bad, that there's some kind of tax write-off. I don't know. I mean, it seems very strange to me.
It is very strange. No idea. Okay, I'll give a couple of these questions to you from the audience, and then I've got some back there. There's one from earlier from Anya, and I have kept it because it's a good question. Do you think going through, I'll put it on the screen, the PhD process makes you more accepting of constructive criticism? My primary advisor put me through the ringer, but which made it much easier to accept critique.
Absolutely. I think there's two things about doing the PhD that really lend itself to becoming an author. One is exactly that point, so I agree with you entirely. And then the other one is that until the point of doing a PhD, there was always somebody who had the answers. You could, go and find a tutor or something to help you with your exam questions you were struggling on before finals. But when it comes to writing up that thesis, nobody is going to get it done except you. And it's exactly the same with the novel. You have to get it to the finishing line. Nobody's going to do it for you. So those are the two things that I really think came out of the PhD that helped me. And then in my professional career, just kind of to expand on that point, it's the same thing. You've got to deliver a product on time. Nobody's going to do it for you. You have to work constructively to make it the best thing you possibly can without getting emotional about it. And it just taught me to be very professional. And I try and apply that in my writing. If I have a deadline, I want to meet that deadline. I guess it's much easier for my publishing editor to say yes to another contract for me if she knows I deliver on time and I'm not difficult, and she can get home and see her kids rather than sitting late in the office because some egotistical author didn't deliver on time.
Definitely, that's really interesting. Thanks for that question, Anya. It's really good. Linda's got a good question. If you could be reincarnated as either a mermaid or Kraken, which would you choose? I think that's a really tough question because they're so massively different.
Yeah, I'm just not sure I'm in love with the whole kind of stereotypical female image of the mermaid. So I might just go for the Kraken, but be quite a nice Kraken.
I love that. Yeah. Well, everyone's a Kraken coming. Yeah, but it's okay. It's all good.
Yeah, this one's friendly. You know, you can
Yeah.
have a chat with it.
You wouldn't know that until, you know, the panic's over.
It's
Brandon
okay to
says,
scare people occasionally.
yeah, Brandon's got the classic Star Wars or Star Trek.
Do you know, I'd have to say Star Trek, and that's partly
Ooh.
because there was a point in my life, and it was a very specific point in my life, where I was stuck in the house breastfeeding with my first child, when I absolutely knew what time Star Trek was on television.
Wow.
And I was, because there's not a lot you can do when you've got a small child kind of latched onto you.
Yeah.
You got to get your pleasures where you can, and Star Trek was one of my pleasures.
Yeah, cool. I've never really got into Star Trek, so I just can't. So I would always go Star Wars on that one.
The kids are very into Star Wars, so we do go and see all of it. But yeah, I have to say Star Trek probably fits more into my emotional zone.
Annie's got another question. Did you see any cool sea life when you were swimming the channel, apart from the suitcases?
The jellyfish.
Jellyfish, yeah.
Not when swimming the channel. I have since done, you know, a fair amount of surfing, and I've surfed with down in Cornwall particularly. You get to surf with seals quite often, which is quite cool.
There was a woman who got shark bite off Penzance today. Yesterday.
I saw that. Yeah.
Blue shark.
Yeah,
apparently.
she was very sanguine about it. I'm not sure I would have been quite so okay about it.
Yeah, don't worry, it was fine. Just a shark. Yeah, I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, I've been surfing in Newquay and Bude a few times, and it's an absolutely stunning part of the world.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah, so swimming the channel is slightly different. It's a bit murkier than that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't get to see much but beyond there. Okay, there's a few more in here before we wrap it up. So I've put some new ones in here, but I'm going to go with some old ones at the moment. What was the last book that you read, or the last film or show that you watched?
The last book that I read was Meg Mason's Sorrow and Bliss, which is on the Women's Prize for Fiction shortlist. It didn't win, but it is absolutely amazing. And it's one of those books which I'm not sure I'd have picked it up if it wasn't on the shortlist. And on the face of it, you think, oh, this is quite a tough read, because it's ostensibly about, you know, a marriage that's falling apart, family difficulties, mental health issue that's kind of unidentified, and it, you know, there's a big thread running through it. But it's absolutely hysterical in places. It's so heartwarming, it's so touching, and then at other times, you know, heartbreaking, often within the space of a page, and so beautifully observed and beautifully written. And I just, I was blown away by it. And so I did laugh, I did cry, and I would recommend it to anyone.
Yeah, sounds incredible. Okay, let's have a look. If you could bring back any fashion trend that is no longer around, would you bring anything back?
Would I bring anything back? Oh, let's have a think about that.
It's quite a tough question.
Yeah. Do you know, one of my favorite body parts for myself is legs, so I'd go with a mini. Let's have the mini back. Maybe mini with like knee-high boots and things. Yeah, I'd go with that.
Fantastic. Okay, let's have one more silly one if we can find it. Karaoke. What would be your poison in terms of karaoke songs?
Well, I did once sing Nothing Compares to You on karaoke and was told never to do that again. But I love that
ever
song.
Do that again.
Yeah.
It is a great song.
It's a great song. It's not a great karaoke song. It is fair.
Yeah, it's quite a slow, depressing song for karaoke night, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, brilliant. Okay, just let's wrap this up with a bit more seriousness as we're finishing up now. If you're looking back on your career down the line, what would success look like for you at that point?
So I suppose, I mean, at the risk of sounding ridiculously corny, I think your life is about the people in it. So it's not just about professional success. And, you know, I always wanted to be a writer. I am a writer. That's amazing. I'm so happy with that. I feel like I've kind of ticked a box there. And yeah, I want to keep writing for the rest of my life, and I will. Even if I never get another publishing contract in my life, I'll still be writing. I would want my family to be happy and together, my kids to be well and, you know, happy, kind individuals. And yeah, I think that for me is the important thing, because it's so much about the people in your life. That is absolutely what makes it.
Wonderful. Great answer. Okay. And finally, where can people find out about you and buy your books?
So you can find me at lexieelliot.com. I'm on Instagram at Lexie Elliot Writes, and Facebook's the same. Twitter is at Elliot_Lexie, and you can buy my books, all the normal places. But definitely with the Richard and Judy promotion, they're in every WH Smith. You will find them at the moment. So if you're going on holiday, go to WH Smith on the way.
There's always one of those lingering around, isn't it? Somewhere holiday.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Lexie, thank you so much for joining me. It's been a pleasure. I've loved hearing your story and all the amazing things within it. And good luck with your upcoming book in February, and that's representing Great Britain. I think that's incredible. So well done to you, and all the best. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Welcome. Pleasure. Everybody stay safe. I will look out for that news coming up. So go on my website, subscribe, and you'll see it coming up very soon. All exciting. And I'll see you next week with another show. Thank you guys, and goodbye.